right to it. Since we've all got our lists together, we have our top threes. And Marcey, would you like to tell us what is your first pick as your what horror hidden gem from the 2000s?
Yeah, so as we normally do with our list, we'll go one by one and we'll talk about one movie each till we've all done our three after several loops. I'm going to go with something from the year 2000 and from our country of origin of Australia. And that is the movie Cut, which was Australia's answer to Scream. Now, Cut is not the best movie ever made. It has its flaws, but for me, like, I saw this when it came out. I was very much, that Scream hype train lasted for years, and you wanted to see slashes and horrors and da-da-da-da, and, it was an Aussie one, and, Molly Ringwald, they got Molly Ringwald in it, there's Kylie Minogue cameo. It's like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do this. And when I watched it, I'm like, this is so bizarre, this is so different, it's doing all these weird things that you don't really see in, like, the slashes, and I just have such a fondness for Cut. Like, yeah, the reputation is it's kind of crap, but it's for me it's the good kind of crap. I don't necessarily think it's crap. They tried, and they delivered something that for me is really entertaining, and at the end of the day, that's what really matters. I want to be entertained. I want to enjoy it on some level, and that's what Cut does. And I think it is one of our more underrated horror entries into, that kind of transition from the 90s to the 2000s, and I will defend Cut till the day I die, I'm just saying. And Bede, you and I actually rewatched this a few years ago, and we had a blast. Absolute blast definitely. With it. And my co-host on the King Zone's book club podcast, Steve, I recommended some Australian horror, and I said, you know what, I think you might dig Cut. And he got back to me, I think the next day or whenever, and he said, yeah, it's got its flaws, but it was a lot of fun. He really enjoyed the vibe and everything. And I'm like, it holds up. Like, it's goofy, awesome fun. But what do you guys think about Cut? If I'm assuming you've seen it. Whoever wants to talk, chime in.
I'll let Tony and John go first, because I have quite a history with this film.
Yes. Are you fans? Yep.
Yeah. I saw it many years ago. It's funny enough, I did get the Blu-ray, but I still haven't rewatched it. It's been a long time, but I do remember liking it a bit, and I need to go back and watch it. But yes.
And Tony?
And what about you, Tony?
Well, I did like it. I just got the Blu-ray recently myself.
Oh, awesome.
You did. But I first saw it as a preview cassette when I used to work at Blockbuster Video.
Oh,
and
nice.
Watched it on VHS, and I thought, damn, this was terrible. But then when I watched it again, I thought, this is fun. This is great.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Great slasher film. But it's good that you see Molly Ringwald. Who would have thought you would see Molly Ringwald in an Aussie slasher? And Kylie Minogue, of course. And yeah, it's a fun film. Absolutely, definitely. But back in the day, I believe it didn't do so well at the box office.
Oh, no.
No, it sort of ended up getting that reputation of this is shit.
Yeah.
And it just, it really, like, for me, it's just fun. Like, I thought it was fun back then. I thought, yeah, it's average, but it's fun. And I like that, the killer is not like a physical thing. And that's the kind of twist that I was like, you know what? I like this. I like that it's being more adventurous, that it's not just a no-name, whoever the fuck it is, can't be killed, superhuman type of character. Like it, like a Freddy Krueger type thing. It does something different where, not as iconic, but Bede, you definitely have things to say on Cut. I know you are very fond of this film, but before I send it over to you, I will say Cut and Houseboat Horror make for a fucking wicked double feature.
They're practically the same film,
Yeah.
And I should know this because I went to a double feature screening of both of them at Monster Fest a few years back.
Perfect
so that was
double.
a lot of fun. But I'm going to say, Marcey, and maybe it's just me tooting my own horn as per usual, but if I would have to say if someone was the biggest super fan of Cut, it's probably me.
Yes, it is.
I have been obsessed with this film ever since it came out. Because I first heard about it. Because, I mean, even though it didn't do that well at the box office, I do remember it was marketed like everywhere. Like, it was like the posters were everywhere, the soundtrack was around, and like I think it was like because I was just only started getting into horror film at the time, and I was being particularly drawn to slashers since that was kind of the first genre that made me very interested in horror. So when I sort of found out, oh, there's an Australian slasher film coming, I was just like hugely excited to see it. And I didn't see it at the cinema because like I was living in a country town at the time, so I wasn't anywhere near one.
You get nothing.
But once the movie, yeah, exactly. And once that movie came out on VHS, I rented that a lot and I eventually ended up buying a VHS copy of it. And after that, I also bought it on DVD. I also bought the Blu-ray as well. I even had the soundtrack somewhere in storage, so
Jesus.
I had to have that. And like I even, of course, and finally full circle, I got to see it on the big screen at Monster Fest. I even got to ask Kimball Rendell a question about the film, and I was kind of, so it's been a little while since I remember. I think I asked him because I was sort of curious because like the killer in the film is kind of like a mishmash of basically Freddy, Michael, and Jason. I kind of asked him like how what was the process of making this killer and what led to the final version of the film. And I think from what I remember from the interview, and I'm paraphrasing, so since it has been a few years, pretty much he just said like originally the killer was never meant to be a supernatural killer, and it was really just like as the killer changed so much as the script was being written, and then they kind of just ended up being in this version, and even the design was very different from the first initial like design of Scarman. And yeah, and I've just sort of been fascinated by this film. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely not a quality film, and it pretty much was made to capitalize on Scream, because like every slasher film everywhere all over the world was at the time. But I think what makes this one's different is it does have that sort of like, it is a product of the 90s, but it does have that sort of 80s vibe to it as well. And it also has a good sense of humor about itself as well. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. And it's not afraid to get a little crazy and insane, particularly in the last half of that film, where pretty much all logic goes out the window and it just becomes complete insanity.
Very true. But yes, cut. Highly recommended.
Yes. And Tony, tell us your first film from your list.
My first film is a remake. And it's a remake from the original 1971 film. It is called Willard.
Yes.
Ooh.
And starring Crispin Glover, Ali Ermey, and Laura Eleanor Herring from Mulholland Drive. And I gotta say, oh boy, I saw this at the what was it called? The Chevelle Cinema in Sydney, and then it was released around a couple of weeks after Crispin Glover himself was here in Sydney promoting his movies, and I watched it and I just thought, damn, that's one creepy film. And if you have a fear of rats, do not watch this film, whatever you do. But Crispin Glover was perfectly cast for this film, absolutely. Like the original character of Willard in 1971 was played by the legendary Bruce Davison, and that was a great film too, and that also had a sequel called Ben, that was made in 1972 as well. And of course, we all know the theme song for that one from Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah. Which they funnily enough re-record again for this one with Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover recorded the song of Ben for this one, and my goodness, that movie stuck with me. I loved it. I've always loved this one.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Definitely. It stuck with me too, and I did watch it quite a few times when it came out. Rented the DVD and everything. I thought it was just such a good, unexpected, kind of really solid remake. With really good, great, it casted perfectly, and the rats again, just you feel them as characters. It's wonderful. Like Willard would have been on my list if I kind of narrowed mine down, but it was one of the ones I thought of. So I'm glad you picked it, because I do really appreciate and adore this version too.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a great pick. What about you guys? What are your feelings? John.
You go first, John.
Johnny.
Yeah, I love Willard. I remember seeing it when it first. I didn't see it. I saw it on DVD as a new rental, and yeah, I love it too. I think he's perfectly cast, Glover, and yeah, the army of rats, and I really loved even his boss. Was it Ali?
Ali.
Yeah, Ali Omi.
Yeah, as boss, and he's just perfectly cast. So everyone's just perfect in that film, and it's really well done. And yeah, I've always liked that film. So yeah, very very good choice, and highly too.
Yeah, if people haven't seen it, double bill it with the original. It's great stuff, honestly. Bede.
I'll do a triple with Ben.
Yeah, I agree with all of you. I think it is a really strong remake. I think I saw this one before, many years before I actually saw the original. So I didn't know what to expect, but even after hearing about it, I was very excited to check it out. Particularly because, like, I sort of do remember Crispin Glover, but like, I think I wasn't aware that he was in the Back to the Future films, but I remember that my first exposure to him was in one of the in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. So that was like my first
his
exposure
brilliant
to him.
dance moves that
Yes.
we recreated one year. I remember that.
Exactly. And I sort of thought he was like perfectly cast here. And I know he wasn't the first choice because I think Joaquin Phoenix and Macaulay Culkin were in talks to play the character. And I think they would have. Yeah, I think they would have been pretty. I think they would have been pretty interesting choices. But I think this is one of those roles that Crispin Glover, who kind of for most of his roles has been, as a character actor or a supporting character, getting a chance to finally shine in a lead role in a rare one. And I thought he just did a phenomenal job. And, it's really well made. And it's kind of a shame, like Glenn Morgan, who wrote and directed the film, like he would do the Black Christmas remake that came out 3 years later. And then after that, he never directed another film again, which is a shame because I think he does actually have a lot of talent, especially even though, the Black Christmas remake wasn't good, it does have style and some pretty interesting elements to it. But I think just seeing this film in particular, you just know, like, oh yeah, this is a very talented filmmaker.
Yeah, that Black Christmas 2006 looks like Citizen Kane compared to the one that came out a couple of years ago. That Black Christmas remake.
I haven't seen that one, but I didn't like the 2000s one really at all.
2001 is not that bad in comparison.
Yeah, like if I think about it, I'm like, you know what? It's not that terrible, but it kind of is terrible. But again, maybe I'll revisit that someday. But yeah, now I really want to rewatch Willard. It's been a few years. I'm so glad you picked that, Tony. It's such a great movie.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a good film, definitely.